Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I know. It's
a long
a story,
spiel.
isn't it?
Yeah.
We're probably live too, so we should be.
Not yet. There's the delay, but
oh no, ad.
Okay, gosh, Okay, well now we're probably really live. So
welcome to From the Ground Up podcast. So we have t-shirts as always available on Portcitypythons.com. We have some animals available. There looks like there may be a shipping day, maybe one day. I don't know. Far away from now, but you can check out available animals. We will hold them at no cost to you. Otherwise, Southeast Carpet Fest. So you heard our episode with Ian. And so Southeast Carpet Fest is February 9th at 2 p.m. at Terrestrial and Arboreals facility in Melrose, Florida, hosted by Pia and Cody Bartolini. And then it is sponsored by Forrest and Desiree Fanning at Cold Blooded Cafe, feedersource.com. Herpetologist podcast. I'm doing bad at talking today. Sorry,
Robin
Justin.
And the team at SYR and the Herpetologist podcast. Thank you, Jeff Frederick, for this year's logo. The auction has over 100 items that are now posted and live on Facebook.
You're a good reader.
He spelled something wrong. Shut up. The group, now you're messing me up. It's on the Facebook group page. Benefits. Wow.
Well, Ian's
it benefits 4 universities to study nidovirus. Bidding now is open with live finish at the conference at the Carpet Fest on February 9th.
That's why we can't write.
Please RSVP on the FB event page. If you're coming, you have to bring something that is your price of admission. Please contact Ian to choose something from the list of what they need as far as food. Hotels in Gainesville, tent, camping on site is an option. Airbnb in Melrose, Keystone Heights, Gainesville, others. Gainesville International Airport is 25 minutes away. Jacksonville International Airport is 1.5 hours away. Orlando International Airport is 2 hours away. Jesus, Ian, there's so much more. Friday night, they are planning a get-together at one of the local Gainesville breweries. So if you plan to be in town Friday night, please contact Ian for details. I'm never saying that again.
That's Ian Bassell of S&J Reptiles.
I am not saying that at the beginning of every podcast leading up till.
Well, it's February 9th. It's only a few, and we're going to have Cody and Pia on probably in the middle of this week. So you will get to hear more.
So then we don't have to say that. They can give their own spiel.
They can spiel themselves, and we're going to talk about their crazy. They have, I believe, venomous as well as a bunch of Morelia, whether it's green tree pythons, carpet pythons, stuff like that. And they're on the forefront of kind of figuring out all the nido stuff. So who knows? We may talk about that if we get the courage.
Cool. Well, back to this week. This week's guest.
So this week's guest will be Jeff Lemm. He is a zoo-based herpetologist. So, Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, and then also tell us how you got into reptiles?
Hey guys, how are you? Thanks for having me on. My name's Jeff Lemm. I'm 47. I live in San Diego, California. I like long walks on the beach and pina coladas. No, herpetology. It started at a very, very young age. My dad's like a hardcore outdoorsman. So he started us all, backpacking and fishing and everything when we're just starting to walk. And we also lived by the San Diego Zoo. So I was at the zoo every week, always at the reptile house. And my dad kept some herps when he was a kid, and he showed me pictures, and he'd catch king snakes in the yard and show them to us when I was a toddler. And then out in the desert, when I was about 6, I caught a gopher snake, and that just kind of reinforced it all. So let's see, 41 years later, I'm a herpetologist, again, zoo-based. I do conservation research. I've worked with a lot of stuff over these last 27 years as a herpetologist. I do a lot of local conservation work here in San Diego County, a lot of our threatened and endangered reptiles and amphibians. I think I'm probably known best for monitor lizards and rock iguanas. I've worked for 27 years with rock iguana conservation in the field in all the islands in the Caribbean. It started in Cuba and went to many other islands, and breeding, other research, things like that. But since that's all zoo stuff, we're gonna go the other direction and talk about the kind of the private stuff. Field herping has been a biggie, and a lot of that is thanks to my career because I get to go to a lot of cool places all over the world. And now my kids want to go to all these places. So yeah, a lot of travel, a lot of field herping. I've been keeping and breeding herps for, probably close to 40 years. Like I said, my first ones, I was 6 or 7. And I mean, all kinds of stuff. I mean, name it and I've probably had it. So.
Okay, yeah, I was just gonna ask, do you have any preference as far as even lizard snakes? But it seems like you're kind of into everything.
I like everything. I like weird things. Some of my friends here, Al Feldman and some of the other guys that have been my good friends for a very long time, we like the weird, quirky things you don't see every day. You know, even like, you know, spherodactyls, little reef geckos, and, you know, crazy weird lizards and odd little snakes that nobody has, like telescopus and just odd things. But for me, it's always been monitor lizards. Probably got my first monitor when I was 12 or 13. I've had most of the available stuff. I've bred probably 9 species. I'm kind of starting to take a break now on monitors for the first time in, 30 years. I've got 2 right now, and that's like huge for me. Just trying to simplify life. You know, monitors are a lot of work. It's like having a dog, and when you have 20 of them, it's hard to go overseas and herp. So yeah, I'm kind of going to take a break for a bit on the monitors. I still have some snakes. Always had snakes. I love snakes. The venomous stuff is all in the field. You know, I have kids. I don't want venomous at home. California, we can't really have venomous. We can have native venomous, but I see 20 rattlesnakes a week in the field, so I don't need to bring them into captivity. I'd much rather watch them in the wild. So yeah, so no real preference, basically. It's mostly swarmate reptiles. So
Gotcha. So, I mean, what's the biggest difference you've seen from keeping monitors, say, 30 years ago to now?
Huge difference. I mean, you know, the monitor craze probably started like in the 90s when people actually started having some success. Frank Reedus, obviously. Frank's a good friend of mine. And you know, I was visiting his house and we talked monitors, and, you know, I was working with Komodos and things like that at the time. So, you know, we became good friends, and he was just killing it, breeding everything. You know, Frank's a legend in the field and with captive herps. And so we became friends, and then the forums came out, and it got ugly with a lot of people, me and Frank included. Everybody thinks we're enemies. It's hilarious. Everybody thinks we're like, hate each other. But then they see pics of us field herping together with my kids, and they're like, wait a minute, what's going on? But no, the forums weren't good for the monitor guys in the 90s. We all just scrapped. But yeah, I mean, the biggest difference is, you know, people are applying what they see in the wild to captive animals. And with monitors, that was huge. I mean, you know, in the 80s, people kept them at 85 degrees and, you know, barely kept them alive. And in the 90s, people started giving them the actual temperatures they needed. And a lot of that was Frank, again, because Frank and myself, we both were in Australia all the time. And, you know, we're taking temp guns out there and, you know, shooting Tristis at 130 degrees. And, you know, it's like, I think we're doing it wrong. So once you start giving them the temperatures and the daily feedings, then it exploded. And they're actually fairly easy to breed.
Wow. So what kind of animals have you bred privately?
Oh, man.
Monitor-wise.
Monitor-wise? Oh, geez. Kimberly Rocks, Kingorum, and both Ackies, Tristis, Persinus. Geez, what else? Trying to think. I'm also not including the zoo stuff, because when I lived in Australia, we bred perennies and lace monitors and Keith Horneye and all kinds of crazy stuff. So at home, that's probably it, 4 or 5 species. I try not to work with too many different ones at once. I kind of like to focus on one thing.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like you kind of had a little bit of a taste for the smaller, more like easier to keep as far as space-wise, it seems, especially in California.
Yeah, you know, I had my giant monitor phase. Like I said, I worked professionally with Komodos and white throats, and And then I had one of the largest ornate Nile monitors on record at home. He was over 7 feet long, big puppy dog tame thing. And I had Indicus and Malinus and Iguana and all that stuff at home too, but always just single animals. It's just, they take too much room. The big ones, just to do it right, you need massive areas.
Lots
and
of space.
I never had that, you know, so, and I just love Odatria. They're just the coolest little creatures alive. So.
That's awesome. So you never, I mean, you must really love it. I mean, for as far as keeping snakes, you know, is so simple. And not only are you taking care of monitors or large lizards at work, but you're coming home and doing it also.
Right. It's it gets to be a bit much, you know, and especially when I go out of the country, you know, in the beginning of my career, I'd be out a couple months, 3 months at a time. And, you know, that would fall on my wife, who's taking care of monitors and, you know, Sanzinia and boas and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I kind of toned it down at home over the years. And once the kids were born, I got rid of a lot of stuff and just keep a few things here and there. The most I keep at once is like 20 animals. And like I said, it's mostly field herpetology is my favorite thing in the world. I'd much rather go out and find stuff and photograph in the wild and learn about it out there. So, I mean, I'll always have herps. I'll always keep herps, but you know, you need a break sometimes.
Did your travel interest come before, you know, you had to do it for work, or did it come with the, you know, the ability to kind of get paid while you go?
Yeah, right. Travel herping wise, I really didn't start doing, until college and until work came along. We traveled all over the U.S. doing outdoor stuff, you know, climbing mountains and backpacking and ski packing and, you know, mountaineering, that sort of thing. That was all over any of the big mountain ranges in the U.S. But yeah, once I started traveling for work, I think I was 20 when I first went to Cuba. Then I got the bug, you know, seeing stuff I dreamt about seeing in the field just made it worse. And, you know, then all the Caribbean, Mexico, you know, Australia, everywhere, it just started and it hasn't stopped for some reason. I don't know why.
So, I mean, how did you make it over to Australia? Kind of, how did that come to be?
Australia was a place I always wanted to go from childhood on up. Excuse me. The first trip I did was in the mid-90s, and that was for some research I was doing at a zoo over there. And I tacked on 2 weeks of travel onto that. You know, if they're going to pay my airfare, I'm going herping.
Of course.
So I kind of went up the East Coast, and then I flew to Darwin, herped all around there, met some really good friends who are still really good friends today. That's when I met Steve at Australia Zoo. You know, Steve Irwin wasn't a name here at the time. He was a name over there. His show was on in Australia and they canceled him. Nobody liked him. I just knew of him because he had monitors at the zoo. You know, his dad started Australia Zoo. It was called Queensland Reptile and Fauna Park when I first went there. And I met Steve and, you know, we just started talking monitors. He showed me perennies and, you know, we became good friends. We kept in touch. I still had no idea he had a show, and he was acting.
Never brought it up?
He never brought it up, but he was acting like I should know who he was. And he finally said, "Have you ever seen my docos, mate?" I said, "You're what? What the hell's a doco?" I do documentaries. I'm like, you do? No, I've never heard of you. He goes, "Here, I'll show you. Let me show you one. Go back to the hotel tonight, have a cot and a beer, go through it, you know, blah, blah, blah." So we bring home this VHS tape back to the hotel of the first Crocodile Hunter. And my friend and I were just cracking up. And this guy is nuts. He is going to die. And we went back the next day and I said, "Dude, you're crazy. How are you still alive?" And he goes, "It's just what I do, you know, blah, blah, blah." And he goes, "But they hate me here in Australia. You know, it's never going to be a thing here. I've canceled already." And I was doing a lot of TV for work. And I said, "Hey, there's this new channel coming up and it's all animal stuff. You should check into it." He's like, "Really?" I said, "You'd be huge in America and people love that stuff." He's like, "Really?" I said, "Oh yeah." So he called me like not 2 months later. Said, "Hey mate, I'm going to be on your animal channel." was like, really? They took it? He's like, yeah. And then it just blew up.
So then you're the reason.
No, I wouldn't say
in-
I'm the reason. I'd say his director, Johnny, was probably the reason. I just said, hey, there's an animal station. Check it out.
Hey, you planted the seed, I feel like, though.
No. I'm going to hear about this now.
And
But,
was he immediately like that guy that you see, or was it a little bit different upon first meeting him?
Now, when you first meet people, they aren't ever what they are, you know. And I mean, we got to know each other. We were constantly talking back and forth. He came out. He came out to film a couple times because all Australians love rattlesnakes. And he said, hey, can you put me on some rattlesnakes? I said, yeah, that's what I do, man. I can show you some. So I was his guide for a lot, that rattlesnake show he did for the California section. And yeah, we cruised around and caught stuff and filmed and everything. And then probably 2 years later, maybe, like we'd see each other and I'd go back to Australia. And then just out of the blue, he said, hey, you should come over and work at the zoo. And I was like, yeah, man, you guys have cool stuff. And so I took a year off work here. I took a sabbatical, and that's why I went to Australia Zoo. And I was supposed to be kind of teaching research to his staff, but I kind of became a reptile keeper. I did a couple things over there, but it was fun. I mean, you know, working with inland taipans and lace monitors and perennies and crocs and everything. So, but then, you know, then you kind of start seeing who the real guy is. And he's not the dude from TV, not at all. And yeah, I mean, I'll just say it didn't end that great personally between us because he's a hard-headed guy and very scrappy, very his way or the highway sort of thing. And it just got difficult. I had a great time there. I thank him for everything we did. I have fantastic friends who still work there. I was just there 2 years ago at Australia Zoo. Really good people. And yeah, we keep it at that. We still go herp, and I still herp with a lot of the guys from there. It was a great experience. It was fun. But,
I can only imagine, like, I feel like it's like being a kid in a candy shop because Australia has all the things that we so desperately
That we've been
want.
drooling over.
No,
that
it's
the laws don't
right.
allow
We're
us
all
to.
drooling over here and like, oh my God, what if? Like, what if we got this? What if? And so I feel like I can only imagine what Joe would be like getting access to the Australia
It seems
Zoo
like
every
you
day.
are like very good at sneaking yourself into beneficial herp situations.
Calling him
really
opportunistic. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And I mean, if you ask people to this day, it's like if they ask me to speak at you know, Chicago Herp Society or something, I say, yeah, fall or spring, and we do a trip to Snake Road. That's the deal. And so yeah, I always make sure any travel has some herp component to it. You know, it's the easy way to do it. Why not? You're already there, right? So yeah, I mean, I still herp Australia. I took the whole family over, and we're going back again here pretty soon. And it's just, there's nothing like it. I mean, you know, when we lived there, we had kangaroos in the backyard and carpet pythons in the garage and, you know, odura and everything running around and billions of frogs. But when you actually get out in the bush and herp, it's just ridiculous. I mean, for me, you know, I'm a photographer too, and it's like, you just can't even keep up with this. You know, you want to get good shots of stuff. You can't keep up. There's just so many herps that you just get tired of shooting. And they're just, especially if you go to places where nobody goes, then you can see stuff all day and all night. You just exhaust yourself. So.
Yeah, I mean, and Australia, for those of us who are into, you know, the reptiles of Australia, we know that we could spend our whole life trying to go to every region of it. It's so vast and huge. So I mean, like, what's one of your favorite like habitats or regions of Australia or things to find in Australia?
Monitors, obviously. I love Western Australia. I've herped all 7 states of Australia, including Tasmania, and you know, I feel like I haven't even touched it. And, you know, it's just, there's so much and so much more to see, and I'm constantly planning trips, and I try not to go back to the same places, but then it's like, oh man, Western Australia was too good, I have to go back. So, you know, WA, any of the desert regions. The rainforests are great too, but you know, it's tougher to see herps in rainforest than it is out in the desert. I like the top end too, you know, anywhere in the territory and Western Australia are probably my 2 favorites.
Awesome. And is there any, I mean, photography, did that come from the herping? I mean, that just come from you wanting to kind of capture the moment?
Yeah, kind of. My dad's a photographer, so, but I was always the one in front of the camera, you know, hanging off a cliff or, you know, ice climbing or something. He was always taking photos of that. And he's still an incredible photographer today. But he does landscape stuff, and he's not really a big animal guy. I think I got into it really big. My dad handed me a camera when I was 20, when I was going to Cuba, and said, if you don't take pictures, you're going to hate yourself. And sure enough, that's kind of how it went. I got really, really into it. I was fortunate enough that he had taught me enough that I got some really good shots in Cuba on my first trip. And yeah, it just steamrolled from there. And then, you know, back in the 90s, I wrote a lot for all the herp magazines when we had those sort of things still. And so, yeah, I mean, it was good money because you'd write an article and you get paid for cover photos. And so I wrote for Reptiles a lot. So
man, I wish that still existed.
I know. That was the good old days.
The other day?
No, yeah, I keep on buying old ones, you know, that have, you know, cover photos that I like, usually like black rat snakes or something stupid. But.
Yeah. And then, you know, once the digital age came out, everybody and their mother could take a photo. And so there's like zero money in photography anymore. And so now it's just a fun thing. And a lot with my kids and herps that they found. And, you know, still a lot of animal stuff and landscape stuff and underwater and whatever I can do.
Yeah. Now, I mean, snakes are probably, and monitors alike, I guess, if they're in the wild, they're probably among the worst things you could try to photograph besides like hummingbirds.
We get so frustrated trying to get a picture in our perfect bowl, perfect lighting in our own house. Like, it just seems so frustrating in the wild.
It depends on the animals. I mean, that's why you see so many rattlesnake photos, because they just pose. That's all they do. But rosy boas are a whole other ball game. They just don't stop moving. And, you know, blind snakes, that's about impossible. Monitors are actually pretty good. They often sit still. You know, they think you're going to eat them, so they just freeze. But yeah, I mean, it depends. Any of the diurnal, fast-moving snakes, they're a pain in the ass. Elapids are trying to get you the whole time. You know, if you get too close with your lens, and they're coming for you. And in Australia, when you're out in the bush, you really got to watch yourself doing that. But yeah, I mean, it just depends. Pythons are really easy, actually. They just sit. So.
I get so discouraged. I feel like, I don't know. I guess there's no specific corn snake herper picture or photographer out there. They'd really get frustrated or anything like that.
You gotta have patience. That's the number one thing. And trying to teach my kids that, because they're into photography. It's just chill. He'll calm down. Just, you know, relax. You'll get it. And they end up getting it usually 9 out of 10 times. So.
Yeah. Now, I mean, how was it kind of getting your kids out there? Because you've alluded to it a few times.
No, it's the best thing ever. I love it. And, you know, you herp an area for 40 years, you kind of get, okay, yeah, there's another king snake. Yeah, there's another rosy boa. You know, it kind of gets old. You want to go other places and do it. But when my kids really started getting into herpetology, then it was fun, because, you know, they could read I wrote the book on San Diego herps, and they read the book and look at it. And well, I want to find one of these. Where can we find that? Oh, you want to go look? Yeah, let's go. So that made it more fun. And that's why I still do a lot here in San Diego with them, because they just love it. And then when you take them to another country, it's 100 times more exciting. So just seeing it on their face, you know, you hand your kid a frilled lizard, and they just lose their mind, you know, it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I would lose my mind if you hand me a frilled lizard.
I would lose mine too, but probably in a different way.
But I mean, it seems like you have such vast knowledge, I'm sure, of San Diego. You've been herping there so long. So, I mean, what spurred you to make the book? And then also kind of how do you approach herping kind of in San Diego? Like, can you tell people where stuff is? Do you not? Are you secretive about it?
I mean, we're all pretty secretive. It's like fishing. I'm a fisherman too. And, you know, you keep your spot. You don't want somebody messing with it. And I mean, good friends, yeah. We herp together. I'll help people out. People I've known a long time who are coming to San Diego. If they ask, I'll give them hints. And, I don't give dead on GPS coordinates, but I'll give them hints and say, that time of year, this is what you're doing. This is where you need to be. You'll get them. And they do. If they're decent herpers, they can usually pull off what they're looking for. But the problem I'm having right now is there's this new crop of herpers. And I'm sure you've heard about it on Facebook. And my son is in that age category. The 16-year-old kids who just got their license. They want to herp, mostly because they want an Instagram photo to get a bunch of likes. And I mean, even older guys. I was having issues with some older dudes this year. And it's like tearing up the habitat, not caring at all about the animals, just to get that shot for Instagram with their cell phone. And I mean, just plundering board lines. We have these boards, cover objects like they do everywhere. There's a certain time to do it here in San Diego County. And if you do it too early, you're going to mess it up. And if you do it too much, you're going to mess it up, meaning no animals are going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And so these kids have found Google Earth. They've found everybody's board lines, and they're just pummeling them. I mean, I saw the same king snake that I knew from my board line that I established in probably 8 different Instagram photos in a week.
Wow.
So I picked up my boards and I left. And now I put it on, private areas and places people can't go to. So, I get it. It's an excitement thing. Everybody wants to herp and find the animal and everything. But man, some of these people got to just tone it down a little bit, There's plenty to see, plenty for everybody. You don't need to trash it. So there's my soapboxing for the day.
Well, and I understand being secretive, but so tell us a little bit more about the book, though, and what led to writing the book.
So, I mean, I've herped here my whole life. I know where everything's at. I've done research here. I know what needs protection, what needs help, and I had all the photos. I've herped so long that you just get a good collection of photos of everything. And I was going to make kind of a photo guide, but then, there wasn't really anything out there for San Diego County. And you don't typically see books on just one county. You do now. People are starting to do it more, but San Diego County is very important. It's a biodiversity hotspot. We have more endangered species than any county in the United States for all animals and plants, except for Hawaii. So in the contiguous United States, we have more endangered species. There's a lot of development. People want to live here. You pay the 70-degree tax. It's always nice here. Everybody wants to come here. So housing is a premium. It's expensive. And so the habitats get trashed for housing. And the prime habitat, which is coastal sage scrub, is what they like to develop. But that's now one of the most endangered habitats on Earth. It's, over 80% gone. And there's a lot of species that can only live in that habitat. So you get, in coastal San Diego, that's the only place you find red diamond rattlesnakes, which are a protected species. Coastal horn lizards, coastal patch-nosed snakes. I could go on and on. Those are all from coastal sage scrub. So I figured, if I'm going to write a book, I want to do it on what I like. I'm doing it. It's going to be a field guide, but it's going to have a big conservation theme. So I wrote for 3 years. It was close to 300 pages on just this county, photos of every herp, every habitat, and everything. And there's a lot of work, but it was rewarding. It was fun. And then, of course, genetics came into play. And 2 years later, all the names are out of date. So I wrote that in 2006. So I'm thinking of doing an updated version now that things have been split and changed and renamed and everything else. So we'll see.
Right. So does that mean, if you did a book about every reptile, have you found every reptile in San Diego County?
Oh yeah, many times over. Except like there's a couple taxa where there's like one known specimen from the 60s or something. Probably don't occur here.
Sounds like an excuse, man.
Yeah, I've looked for them. I have looked for them.
A few more boards.
Yeah, but it's like right on the edge of the county, and it might be in the other county, but not ours. It's every county there is. And then yellow-bellied sea snake, no. 6 have washed up on our shores, but no, I've never seen one. I haven't seen leatherback sea turtles here, but they do come here. We actually have quite a few sea turtles that come to San Diego. They just don't nest here. So yeah, it's tough. But I mean, I also caught an alligator in Mission Valley. So I've got my rare ones too.
Whoa.
I used to have a company called San Diego Snake Catchers, and like half of the species I'd get at a snake call were exotics. I mean, it's not quite as bad as Florida because our winters are a little colder, but yeah, a lot of Burmese pythons, ball pythons, boas, iguanas, bearded dragons, Nile monitors, alligators, caimans. Yeah, a lot of crazy
In
stuff.
people's houses?
Or out in the bush, that have escaped or they've let loose. I just got an albino boa last week from a hillside down in East San Diego. Yeah.
So you're still so you said the business doesn't exist anymore, but you're still doing that for people?
I still have the same number, so people still call me. And if it sounds interesting, I'll go do it if I have the time. But no, when the kids were born, I couldn't work full time and handle 5 snake calls a day. It's just too much. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a place where you would actually get frequent phone calls, I'm sure, with rattlesnakes and stuff like that.
A lot of rattlesnakes, a lot of king snakes, gopher snakes, alligator lizards. And, people always way over exaggerate what it is. You have a 9-foot black and yellow banded snake. Oh, you have a 2-foot king snake in your backyard. Then you go there and it's a scrub python. So you never know. It can be interesting. So
yeah, for sure.
Wow, I feel like I have a very over sensationalized view of what that is. I don't know if you watched the show. No, I can't remember the name. Snake City.
Oh yeah,
the couple in South Africa, and they have the same type of business.
Well, I guess like
my view is so. I mean, it's TV, so I know it's not like 100% real. But in my head, I'm like, wow, that seems so exciting, and like I don't know, it's probably not that exciting.
It was a lot of fun actually, but it's a lot of work, and you meet some crazy people. Absolutely bonkers.
So when the snake guy is the normal one, that's an issue.
Yeah, it is, and it happened 50% of the time. I was the normal one.
How does that happen? That
people are nuts, man. That's why I work with animals.
Now, I'm just thinking of like going back, say the 90s or something. I mean, Cuba must have been closed. I mean, did you go to mainland Cuba, or were you an island?
No, I was on Guantanamo Bay. We've had the naval station there. It was the first overseas base, was Guantanamo. And, it's like Camp Pendleton is to San Diego. Naval bases are typically big preserves. And a lot of research happens on them because they're these areas that can't be built on, and they're hundreds of square acres or even square miles. And they only use certain fractions of it. So a lot of the bases have very good natural history. So when we started with rock iguanas, we knew the Cuban iguana was the most stable of the 16 rock iguanas. So we wanted to use that one as a model. And pretty much the only place we could do it was Guantanamo. But it actually turned out to be really nice because it's like a small southern town in the Caribbean. We could stay at their quarters, and there's food, and there's a McDonald's, and but I could dive and fish in the Caribbean at the same time. And there's a lot of herps just on that 20 square miles. There's about 35 taxa. So I made a cool little Cuban field herping guide to Guantanamo Bay and saw a lot of cool stuff. But about probably 12 years ago, I got to go to Havana for a meeting. So media and researchers are allowed to go to Cuba. And, it's not the Cubans, it's us. It's our government still screwing over this poor little Caribbean nation. And so I was able to go, and I fell in love with it. And I went again a few years ago. I led actually a tour through work, kind of when Obama opened things up a little bit. And it was awesome. And then I went again a couple of years ago for work. And so I had made some contacts and met a lot of really cool people and herpetologists over there. So now I'm actually running field herping tours to Cuba. And we did our first one in October, and it was wildly successful. We saw about 70 species, Cuban boas, cameliolas, all the weird little Tropidophis, and millions of anoles and frogs. So that's kind of my new thing I'm doing, Cuban field herping tours, go look at cubirds.org. We have a trip in June and we have another one in October this year. So space is limited. So jump on board and come see some awesome stuff before the United States ruins that little country.
What special niche like thing you got into? I feel like you just fall into these very specialized things.
Well, and I mean, it seems like you must have a lot of experience with getting around in foreign countries just to work. I mean, you must have been traveling for so long.
Yeah, you get used to it. And, Americans are funny. We're the only country in the world that's like that. We're scared of everybody. We think everywhere is diseased and you're going to die and everybody wants to kill you or kidnap you and you're going to get eaten by wild animals. And it's weird. It's just, I don't get it because the Cubans especially are like the nicest people on earth. Just so cool. And they want us there and they want to show you around and, and I mean, even Mexico's awesome. It can be hairy and dangerous in certain places, but Baja, which is just south of me, is fine. I mean, we herp there all the time. But I guess, if Americans are scared to go places, it's more for me. That's how it works.
I have a feeling the Americans that are scared are not doing the same type of things in Mexico that you're doing in Mexico.
That is very true. And yeah, I mean, they're going to cities and towns, and there's kind of a danger element there depending on where you're going. But I mean, have you noticed that? I mean, Americans seem like they're just so scared to go places.
Yeah,
and I'm totally part of the. I don't know.
You
say
believe
part of
the
the
hype a
problem.
little bit?
Yeah, I was literally just talking to someone the other day about how much I want to go to Brazil for Carnival, but then I was like, "But Brazil sounds scary. Everyone tells all the bad things that happen in Brazil."
Yeah. I mean, the worst part is being in the cities, and I don't like going to cities. So typically, when I land somewhere, I'm out of the city as soon as I can and into the bush. But it's fun. It's culture and go see stuff. But it very much depends on where you're going. Like Havana is awesome. Havana's the coolest city in the world, and it's safe and it's awesome and the food's fantastic. But you go to, I don't know, Indonesia or Brazil or places like that. Yeah, I mean, Mexico City's no hayride. So you just got to watch. I guess it depends on the place, but I think we overdo it on the fear. So
what are we talking as far as like these trips go? How long are typically the trips? What are the amenities like? Stuff like that.
For the Cuba ones that I'm running or everywhere?
Yeah, we could talk about that specifically.
Yeah. Cuba, we have 10-day trips. It's all inclusive. And we go to several places. We go to about 4 or 5 different locations in Western Cuba, up into the mountains, down in the flats, on the reef. We dive, we eat a lot. That's the only complaint we've ever had is too much food. I think we had lobster 5 times on the last trip.
Oh, yeah.
They love to feed you in Cuba. You see some amazing stuff. We typically hike in the morning and then we wait out the heat of the day when nothing's out, or we go dive or swim, snorkel on the reef. And then we go night hike and you see some really cool stuff there. And it's stuff nobody sees because nobody gets to go to Cuba. So yeah, it's an awesome place, and we're the first ones to ever lead herping tours there. So it's time, because if we open that up again, I was there when Obama kind of opened it a little bit and like eased up on the restrictions, and man, there were Americans everywhere crawling all over that place. And then on the October trip, once things closed down again, there was nobody there. So yeah, that's my big fear, is if it does get open, we're going to kind of trash the place.
So did you have to go through a lot of hoops to get something like this started?
No, I actually aligned myself with the proper people who have been doing birding trips there for about 20 years legally with State Department permits. My friend Gary, he has the Caribbean Conservation Trust. And I approached him, said, "Hey man, let's add herps. I'll run them. I'll be your guide. We'll use Luis, who's the herpetologist at the National Museum of Natural History in Havana. Luis is fantastic, amazing herper and birder and everything else in Cuba. So yeah, a couple times a year, me and Luis hook up and bring a bunch of Americans out into the bush.
See, what's weird is that the depiction that we have of Cuba when it was closed down is it's closed down because like Castro's there and it's dangerous and we don't like them. And if you go there, there'll be trouble. And it seems like you couldn't just get paperwork and go look at a bird. Like it seems like you would need something better to do than just look at a bird.
Another bigger reason.
Right. No, I mean, it's us. It's our country. I mean, we have the restrictions on them. And we have since the Cuban Missile Crisis in the 60s. And they want us there. They want us to come. And they're very cool and they're very nice. And, now that Fidel's gone, what's the problem? I mean, we're friends with China and North Korea and Russia and Vietnam. And we're friends with all these other countries that we've been in massive, ugly battles with. But this little tiny Caribbean nation, we're still going to, stick it to them as hard as we can. And it sucks. So hopefully things calm down and, everybody can be friends and visit because it really is a wonderful place. It's one of my favorite places in the world.
Yeah, it seems that way, especially if you plan to do it like on a recurring basis.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, are you planning on doing other places as well?
No, I mean, right now it's just Cuba. I mean, I go to enough places on my own that I don't feel like dragging people there. But no, Cuba's, it kind of just happened. I've been talking about it for several years. And we met up with Gary and we're like, yeah, let's give it a shot. So we've just done the one. Well, I did a different one through a different group, but our first one was October. And yeah, everybody loved it. Absolutely loved it.
That's awesome. So are there any, what are you going to say? Because I'm going to switch subjects.
Do people ever come to San Diego and just message you and be like, hey, can you take me out and show me?
Now people will if you give
if they give them that idea.
Give them the idea.
No, that's happened for years and years. I think I have 4 messages waiting on Facebook right now from herpers. Coming to San Diego. Yeah, you hear that a lot.
So you have your own little side gig there doing it.
No, I mean, if I can, good friends I'll take out, like I said, but, people just randomly come and I'll help them out, tell them where they can go and what the best time is, because we can herp you around here. So, it's just depends on what you see when.
Yeah, no, I was going.
Last one. I'm sorry. Back to Cuba. In the chat, they're talking about something called a banana rat. And I'm very confused what this is. And I'm very concerned about it.
That's the American name, and they call them that on Guantanamo. It's a hutia, and it's a large rodent, like big, like ROUSs. Yeah, I mean, it looks like a big rat, but they're fantastic animals. They're really, really cool. And there's a number of species in Cuba. On Guantanamo, they're really, really common because they don't get eaten there. So there's just thousands of them, and the Navy boys all call them banana rats. And, why are the banana rats so stupid? And it's like they're not stupid; they just don't hear well. So, but in mainland Cuba, they're not real easy to see. It depends where you go. We saw the arboreal one on our October trip, which was really cool. But yeah, they're kind of, you know what a nutria is. And
I was just about to ask, are they anything similar?
Yeah, it's similar to that, but they're not water based. They're land dwelling.
She's from Louisiana. She's very.
I know about nutria.
There you go. Yeah. They're on other islands, like in Jamaica, they call them the coney, and they're very endangered on Jamaica, and it's usually because people eat them.
Have you eaten it?
I have not eaten a hutia. I couldn't. They're too cool. I like them. So at our study site in Cuba, where the iguanas were, it was on all these cliffs, and there was a lot of caves under them. And in the heat of the day, I'd go down in the caves, and I'd just sit really still, and the hutia family would come by, and I'd just sit and watch their behavior. And they're matriarchal, so the mom kind of, runs the show, and there's a bunch of different babies, and it's so much fun. Great animals. So yeah, after seeing that, I can't go eat one.
Understandable. You're not sold yet about.
I
still want to eat it.
I can't eat
not because I find it attractive or cute in any form.
They're cute. I mean, people don't like rodents because of the tail, and hutias don't really have that tail.
Okay, if we're gonna go with that.
They are kind of cuter than your average rat, though.
They're cuter than
there's pictures on Facebook. There's pictures in my Cuba albums of them.
Yeah, I
And
think
you'll
they
see how
got.
friendly they are. We're petting them and everything. There's people keep them as pets. So we met a pet one.
What? Well, people
Ask
keep
Dick
it.
Bartlett. Look on Dick Bartlett's page. He has pictures of him and his wife with Hutias too.
That's amazing.
Yeah, they're fun.
I'm okay. I'm okay. Um, but interesting. So are they, I mean, are they all over Cuba? You said not as much on the mainland, mostly
Yeah,
on
they're
the
widespread. I mean, they come from all over Cuba, but I think there's 7 or 8 species of them. There's only one species on Guantanamo, and they're thick there. I mean, because like again, they don't get eaten, and they don't have a lot of predators because of the people. But in the rest of Cuba, they get eaten, so you don't see tons of them
So you don't
unless you're
see
way out in the bush.
Yeah, so Evan in the chat was asking, I mean, have you had any interactions? I'm not sure of where they are locality wise in Cuba, but with Cuban Crocs?
They're only in 2 spots in Cuba, and they're very, very rare. They get poached a lot. There is a breeding program, and a lot of the U.S. zoos are involved with it, breeding and head start and release. So on our trips, we do go to the crocodile farm that takes place at, so you get to see them up close. At Zapata Swamp, we do try to see them, but they're very smart. Crocs are smart animals, and they stay away from people because they're getting hunted. So it's very difficult. We did see an escaped one in the swamp that probably came from the farm, they said, but they weren't sure. So there's a possibility we saw a wild one because they do come to the wild ones. The farm is in Zapata Swamp. The farm's right on the edge of the swamp. So in the breeding season, the wild ones come to the farm because they smell the females.
Right.
So they said, if you want to see them, that's the easiest way. But I don't know. There's so much cool stuff in Cuba. We see the American Crocs when we're there. And we do have a shot at Cuban Crocs. So come and try.
So there's so much Cuba.
Cuba's awesome, man. Cuba rules. I love that place. We see Cuban iguanas, Cuban boas. We've seen 3 species of dwarf boas on the last trip. We saw the Tropodophis fici, which is the black and white banded one. Looks like a California king snake, little dwarf boa. Absolutely beautiful. We see at least 2 species of the false chameleons, the big chameleolus. We see tons of anoles, giant water anoles, racers, a lot of cool stuff, and a lot of really neat birds.
Awesome. So
okay, now we can leave Cuba. I'm done with the Cuba questions.
Now you kind of made me forget what I was gonna ask. So
I'm sorry.
Way to go, man.
I mean, we can always ask more Cuba questions. I was gonna leave it, but of course, Evan, our dart frog master, asked if there's any dart frogs in Cuba.
There's a species which is similar, and the name escapes me. But there is a toxic species that looks similar. It's not a dendrobatid, but yeah, there's one little one. But there's just a billion different types of Eleutherdactylus. There's a giant Eleutherdactylus that we see on our trips. It's like that big. Eleutherdactylus zeus. But yeah, a lot of the Eleutherdactylus, the rain frogs, are little brown things. Some of them have some colorful marks, but yeah, there's a lot of Cuban tree frogs. Those are toxic. But no, a lot of cool stuff. So much cool stuff. I'm still trying to ID half of it.
Now, have you had any less than spectacular field experiences or countries traveled to?
I gotta say I've been pretty lucky. I was pretty sick in Indonesia with a respiratory thing when I went to Komodo and Rinca, and living on a deck of a boat for 5 days. But no, I mean, you can get some boonie rot. Plants get me more than anything. Plants hate me. And it's funny because I raise cactus and succulents. I have thousands of them. And every country I go to, it's the plants that ruin me. You get leeches and ticks and bug bites and stuff like that. But no worries. Nothing to worry about.
So, I mean, your interests, I feel like if you gotta fill out something, you just need to put nature. Because it's just literally everything. Like plants, birds, bugs, rats, everything. It's like your
interest.
It
is. I mean, when you go to a new country, you're not just, well, a lot of people are just looking at reptiles, but I mean, you see a Cuban trogon or a wedge-tailed eagle in Australia, or a koala when you're road hunting and one runs across the road, or in Costa Rica, we just saw an ocelot. I mean, how do you not look at that and just be like, that's awesome? There's some of the crazy bugs in Peru, and there's just too much cool stuff out there to focus on herps.
Is there one place to tell someone who's never gone on a herping trip? I mean, what do you do as someone who wants to herp internationally? I mean, what's a good place to start?
A lot of people start in Costa Rica. And that was one of my first trips 25 years ago. And it's because it's easy. I mean, there's infrastructure and a lot of people speak English. The water's pretty decent. The food's good. And you can see a lot really easy. So yeah, a lot of people start in Costa Rica and kind of work their way up to more hardcore. And if you go to Costa Rica, you can go see Quetzal Dwyer at Reptilandia, because Quetzal's awesome and his park is amazing. Some seriously cool herps. And then after that, a lot of people kind of go to Peru. You could go with Dante Fenolio on his Green Tracks trips, or Mike Pingleton and Matt Cage lead trips to Peru also. And I've done my own trip to Peru, and it was amazing. You see just a bazillion different herps. And it's relatively safe, pretty easy.
So,
or you can come to Cuba with me and herp in luxury and eat lobster and go scuba diving.
Plug.
Seems more glamorous though than sleeping in a tent somewhere or something.
You should see some of the places we stayed, man. It's ridiculous.
Sounds like something, I don't know, a herp trip I'm like mildly
it's probably
interested
a decent,
in.
It's probably a good value, because I mean, Cuba's really not
Cuba.
that far away.
Well, you can't go unless you go on my trip.
Right. Oh.
Legally. See, if you go on my trip, you can have your passport stamped.
With Cuba.
Mm-hmm. If you go on your own,
so that's just like
a
collector's, yeah.
You have a big advantage.
We're speaking to all the other folks that have the other 111 countries. Or
you got an upper hand, 100%.
That's right. It's pretty awesome.
That is crazy.
And you get to see cool cars. I mean, you can spend days just photographing awesome cars.
Yeah, is it true that every car is from?
Yeah, God. So it's the first time I went there, I spent like 2 days photographing cars. Just amazing, cool 50s and 60s cars.
And then just somehow keep them running year after year.
Amazing mechanics. They just make their own parts. I've seen boat engines in cars that work.
Whoa.
That is wild.
Amazing.
Now I forgot where I was going. So Costa Rica, Peru, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Obviously, one of the things that, I mean, a lot of listeners of this show, obviously Corrales, but in particular, Amazon or emerald tree boas and Amazon tree boas. So what are your experiences, especially, I mean, obviously everyone saw that picture of you on Facebook with the giant emerald with the giant lump in it. Yeah. So what are your run-ins with Corrales in the wild?
Well, the Amazon tree boas are dirt common. I mean, that's the easiest thing to find. They're just everywhere, and you pick them up with eye shine like you do amphibians or geckos. And I mean, you could see the things half a mile away when you're cruising down the river at night. So they're pretty basic. Emeralds, tough, man. That's a tough one. I think Dick Bartlett went for 20 years without seeing one. And everybody says that. They're just very, they're in the canopy and they blend in. And I got one my very first trip. It was total luck. I had all my clients out on a little ponga. We stayed on a big riverboat, and we go out in pongas at night and herp and look in wildlife view. And we were under this kind of overhang of canopy that went up, hundreds of feet, but we're on the river still in a boat, and we're watching a kinkajou. And, everybody's watching that. So I'm scanning the bushes, and I just caught that white triangle, and it was about, 30 feet up. And I zoomed back on it real quick, and it was one of those moments where you're like, oh my God. And I said, everybody shine your light. And everybody shined. I said, look at that. And everybody freaked out. And these were older folks that went on this trip. So we brought them back to the boat at like 7. And me and the Peruvian guides went back with like 15 bamboo sticks and taped them all together. I'm like, I am seeing that snake. And I tapped her once with like 10 poles taped together with duct tape. I tapped her once, and instead of going up, she started coming down. And it was basically, she came right down to where I could just lift her right off the tree. It was unbelievable. Nasty thing. But but it was really cool. I surprised everybody with it the next morning at breakfast and then brought it back out. Really cool.
What?
Yeah, it was amazing. Probably one of my top field herping experiences. And then in Costa Rica, we just went and saw the black-tailed tree boas, Ruschenbergii, and that was really cool. Same sort of way, out in the mangroves, spotlight in the mangroves at night. Saw a couple of them. That's pretty cool. They're really mellow. You hold them, they don't strike or anything. They're really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've heard similar things because we were talking to Ian just a couple of days ago, and he has some, I believe, and that was just he says that they're calmer even in captivity as well. So
really, wow.
So I mean, and it's so out of character for all the other corrales, obviously.
Yeah. Well, it's the opposite in Cuban boas. Everybody who keeps Cuban boas in captivity is like, they're vile. They're face biters. I studied them for a bit, radio tracked them, and like, one, they're way bigger than anybody thinks they are. They think a 7-foot one here is big. I mean, we're catching them 13, 14 feet that eat hutillas, and they're this big around. And they're the most calm, docile snakes in the world. I've never had one strike at me. You hang them around your neck and take pictures of these big, massive ones, and they just totally calm.
Wow. So it seems like, I mean, the last thing you would do for a boa in captivity, at least for most boa keepers, would be feed it a lot and stuff like that. Like, people tend to keep their animals lean. So, I mean, those animals are huge. I've never even heard of anything close to that. Is that just, I mean, the abundance of rats around?
Yeah, I mean, and they'll eat iguanas, and so they start out young, eating whatever they can get a hold of. But once they kind of reach that stage where they can eat a small iguana or a small hutilla, that's kind of where they get really big. If they can reach that stage and comfortably take down an iguana or a hutilla, then they're going to get big, and they do. It's like Hog Island boas are the same. The first time I went there, that they're like this big, like a rosy boa. I'm all, these things are ridiculous. What are they having all their babies right now? Guys, like, those are the breeders, man. Those are adults. Like, really? And then you go to another island and they're 6 feet long. I'm all, no, how is that the same breeder as that one? He goes, because on this island they can eat the iguanas. He said they reach a stage where they can eat the tenosaurs and then they get big. So it's all food based.
Oh, wow. So from island to island, there'll be certain, iguanas. And then, I mean, are those other islands? I mean, I've heard of them surviving off of like migrating birds. So they only feed like a certain couple months out of the year.
Right.
And they gorge and they starve.
Yeah, basically like tiger snakes in Tasmania. They eat all the mutton birds is it Tasmania? Some of the keys off Tasmania and some of those Reevesby Island tiger snakes and all those. Yeah, they just eat the seabird chicks for part of the year, and that's it. That's all they get. But it's cold there, so you think the metabolism thing is keeping it at bay. But in the tropics, yeah, it's kind of weird.
And I mean, in that area, so obviously you've been in that area as far as to find Hog Island boas and that kind of stuff. I mean, there's really a giant jump between all the species between the islands. I mean, obviously, there's so many different kinds of boas. I mean, locality boa guys are crazy with all.
Oh yeah, they're different. They're like rosy boas. They're different everywhere you go. I mean, and Cascachinas and the Hog Islands, they do look different on the few islands there. Some are smaller, some are bigger. But you'll find the little breeders and the bigger ones on the same island too. It's weird. Yeah, I had a buddy who was studying them. I got the insight from him.
Awesome.
So are you traveling most of the year?
No, not anymore. Back in the day, yeah, I was gone like 8 months a year. But when you're married and expecting kids, that doesn't go real far for your relationship. So then you get burned out. I mean, I spent 20 years doing the Caribbean just constantly. I was like, ugh, I don't even want to go. And you're just exhausted. And so it's kind of nice, big break. But now that the kids are older, now we're starting to do a lot more international stuff.
So, as someone with a person who's not necessarily totally into reptiles and down for all this stuff.
I like how you sugarcoated that.
Yeah.
I'm
But,
honest with it.
I mean, how does your
knows.
wife feel about your obsession, or does
Well,
she
you talk
have her
about
own
she
stuff?
takes care of the monitors and stuff.
Yeah,
She
does great.
Be into it.
Well, I've known my wife my entire life. So our moms were friends when they were pregnant with us. And then we're in the same grade school, everything. We've known each other forever. So she's known since I was 7 years old that I was a herp freak. So when we, got together and everything, and she dug it. She went to Costa Rica on that first trip with me when we were like 20. And she loved it. And she knew, there was going to be herping. And just, she's been around it her whole life. And when we lived in Australia, she worked at the zoo too. At Australia Zoo. She wasn't a keeper, but she got to play with an awful lot of animals. And she caught lace monitors, she tailed king brown. She went pretty hardcore.
She's in it.
Yeah. But she's not like what I would ever call a herper. Although when we were at the Pomona show, my son texted me and said, "Mom's taking us herping tonight." So
whoa.
Yeah, so that was kind of huge even for me. But no, I would not call her like a herp person at all.
Did she work at a zoo in San Diego too?
No. She's an accounting person. So she's
interesting.
Yeah, and the arts. She was a dancer and everything. So she's far from the animal thing. She likes animals, but she likes mammals, puppies. That's why that puppy is sleeping behind me. That was her gig. So yeah. No, she's good. There's good people that aren't herpers, believe it or not.
Yeah, sometimes there's only so many people you can associate with. So I want to hang out with all the herpers and always meet new herpers. And then I need to hang out with like 100 snakes. And that's just, there's not much you can do after that. As far as normal people, it kind of consumes our whole life. I'm sure.
That's the problem. Herpers aren't normal people. You have to hang out with normal people and then herpers. Like you have your two sets of friends, right? All of us do. And my closest friends are non-herpers. And then I have my herp buddies and my herp acquaintances. You never mix the two groups ever. That's a huge problem. And I've tried it. It just doesn't work, Because the herp people just want to talk herps the whole time. The non-herp people are like, you guys are freaks. Just stay away. So, but my other problem is I have a million different interests. So I can't just have the herp friends.
Right. A couple. Just a little bit.
So surfing and fishing, I have all those friends too. And scuba diving and, mountaineering and all that stuff. So you have to spread it out some. You can't just have herp friends.
Do you try to fish like everywhere you go?
Yes.
So it goes just along with the herping.
I feel like you need like 7 different trips.
You do.
Or you just need to not be able to sleep.
You need your photography trip.
Right.
You need your bird trip. You need
photography comes with all of it. The fishing and the herping and the mountains but no, it depends. It depends. If the whole family's there, I got to tone down the herping and do other things. And there's fishing and diving and whatever else, artsy stuff. I do have some culture, so I do like to go see cultured things from time to time. It just depends where we're going and what it's all about. Surfing, if it's a good surf spot, yeah.
So have you been in this, despite living in Australia, have you been in San Diego almost your whole life otherwise?
Yeah, I was born in San Diego, and my dad was the problem there, though, because he always wanted to be closer to the mountains. So his obsession is mountains, like ours is herping. He's all about mountains and hiking and getting to the next peak. So we moved a couple times out of San Diego just so he could chase the closest mountain range. So I had to live in Bakersfield, California for a little bit, which if you've been through there is very non-Californian sort of place in this. You don't hear a lot of good things, but it was cool because we were close to the Sierra Nevadas and I was close to the Mojave Desert, so it actually turned out to be really good for herping and for bass fishing. And I only had to live there 5 years, so it wasn't awful. And then we also lived in Utah when I was really young. So,
what is your favorite place in the U.S.? I mean, besides San Diego to go herp? Because obviously Utah is an awesome place, but
yeah, Utah's awesome. We didn't herp there though. I mean, I was too young. We just didn't. Yeah, I don't remember a lot of Utah, but I like Arizona and New Mexico. That's probably some of my favorite herping.
For the rattlesnakes or just the diversity?
Yeah, I like my rattlesnakes, but there's a lot of diversity and cool stuff. You get a lot of the Mexican influence coming up, so you get a lot of vine snakes, things like that. And other parts of California. I mean, there's so much in California. Up north is a whole different ballgame than it is down here. So it's cool, and yeah, I've herped a lot of the U.S. There's a lot of cool places. Southern Illinois is a total blast. I love going to Snake Road. Florida's kind of cool if you can handle the people. I'm gonna get some crap for that.
Oh, we all know Florida's backwards.
Yeah,
we have people we like there, but it's an American fact.
yeah. Where else? I mean, there's you can find stuff anywhere. I mean, I just like cruising around, seeing what I can find.
I mean, I think you would enjoy any place you go. You seem to be a person who will find,
Yeah, I mean, you have to, right? Why go somewhere and then not enjoy yourself? That's just not fun. So yeah, Alaska's awesome. Even though there's one wood frog there, it's still amazing. Go photograph bears and fish salmon, and there's cool stuff everywhere.
Yeah. So what is something that, I mean, because I try to always preach, because we could find what we like kind of in our backyard sometimes. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, what can everyone do to kind of get out there and try to find herps? Or like, it's hard to find a local group of people kind of dedicated to herp now that we don't have like many herp societies or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot in just the last 10 years even. When we made NAFA, I founded the North American Field Herping Association with a lot of other people. When we started that was kind of like this weird mixture of herp society, but all field herpers and everybody who wanted to help and do conservation and, take data and, turn that data over to the people that would do something with it. So, we kind of went that way. And even though the database still lives on and people are still doing it, everybody kind of just does it on their own now. We don't have big group outings. But a lot of people don't like to herp in groups. They call us snobby or whatever. But for me, it's damaging the habitat. I just don't like to see coastal sage get trampled with 15 people. I kind of enjoy herping in a group because I like talking to people and hanging out. But I mean, for the most part, just find a few people and go do it on your own. Don't wait for the big group. I mean, you can find herps anywhere. It's so easy. Right. I mean, I tell people it's so easy to herp. I mean, you'll learn it too, which species are out when, and just the thing is being out there. People think I'm a freak because of the albinos I've seen in the wild. And it's like, yeah, I'm out there every single day. If you did that, you would find albinos too. So,
well, let's probe what albinos have you found in the wild and when.
I found the first one was a large blotch salamander about 18 years ago or so. The second one was an albino glossy snake. The third one was probably the albino shovel-nosed snake. The fourth one was through Nate Smith. He actually found them. I don't get credit for that. Those were albino western spadefoots, but there's so many of them. It was really cool.
Wow, there was a whole group.
There's a whole clutch of them. That's crazy. And then just recently, me and my son found another albino large blotch salamander. So yeah, 4 or 5, whatever. But everybody says, "Oh, you're such a freak." It's like, no, man, I'm out there every single day. And albino herps don't seem to be that rare because you see a lot of different photos of albino herps. So,
I mean, do you see?
You're going to go see one if you go herping, today or tomorrow, but the chances are better if you're out there.
Do you see other seemingly, genetic mutations and stuff like that when you're out?
Oh yeah, I see all kinds of weird stuff. You see a lot of striping, and I found a few piebald animals and just weird patterns. It's cool stuff. I like
See, it'd
seeing
be
the
so
bears.
hard for me not to be like, "Ooh, I want to take that home." Like when you see that one crazy, interesting thing,
Right.
I want this in
No,
my house.
I hear that. I hear that a lot, and it's just, I mean, I've seen so much stuff out there that you just don't even think about it. Like I get the Australia one all the time. Like, oh man,
Yeah.
that's so rad. You've seen everything. How did you not put it in your bag and take it home? It's like,
Right.
honestly, the thought never crossed my mind ever. It's just not what I do. I mean, it's not me.
Sorry to be predictable with my question.
No, you're not.
What do you feel, about the morph craze in reptiles? I mean, you were there, before the morph craze. Per se.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it because there are some beautiful, albinos and stuff. I don't get it when it comes to, how somebody can charge $10,000 for a certain snake species because it has this color on this scale. That's just out of hand and lame to me. And that's kind of what's driving me away from herpetoculture because I am being driven out of it of my own accord just because I just don't like what I see anymore. It's just greed and people backstabbing and constant shit talking and yeah, just that stuff and ridiculous prices. 10 grand for a ball python and trading your Corvette to get a snake, and that just gets away from everything I got into herpetology for. So I'm kind of holding it at arm's length for now, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I understand. You just gotta not look at Facebook and talk to your few cool people face to face.
Totally. That's what it's all about. And that's the other thing, and I mean, you've probably heard it 1,000 times, but when you get these people who know they're never going to see you in person and just go after you on Facebook or whatever platform they're on, it's just stupid. It's just like, why am I doing this? This is just annoying. And I mean, there's people I even know that'll do that. And it's like,
there's people that I like in person.
Yeah. And it's like, dude, I'm going to see you pretty soon. Why are you even doing that? That's just stupid. And so that's just, I don't know. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of heat for saying something like that. But unfortunately, that's what I do is I say exactly what I think. And it gets me in trouble sometimes. And oh, well.
So you still, though, you go to a lot of the shows in your area, even though,
I did. I did go to a lot of shows. And that's just because I had a lot of monitors. Because I was producing quite a few here in the last few years. And it's just, I hate shipping animals. So the show is just the easy way. And the other thing is, Alec Feldman Reptiles. Al's one of my best friends. We went to high school together. And he owns DIY cages, which is awesome, by the way. Check him out. So he would have shows or booths at every show down here in Southern California. So he just started giving me a little space on the booth if I'd go help him, set up and, move cages and stuff. So I started, excuse me, damn cold. So I just started going to the shows with him, and then it kind of became more of a weekend get away from the kids, because Al has kids too, go drink some beers with the guys sort of thing. So that's kind of more what it is now, and not so much. And I mean, we don't even go to the auctions or anything. We just hang out with our buddies in the room and have beers and relax and watch football. So yeah, we just did Pomona, but that was our first show in over a year. So, and I've had enough for a while.
I mean, that's, if you're gonna have one show for in a year,
that's a good one to do it.
The one to do it.
That is the one to do, and I don't get that at all. Pomona is not a nice place, and it's in the middle of nowhere. But I guess it's central for the LA and San Diego people, so I guess that's why it works. So
yeah,
it's fun though.
I feel like there used to be a little bit more of a connection between the private hobby and like zoological and academia and that kind of stuff. I mean, do you see that slowly? I mean, is it getting worse as far as the divide between
It's
those?
they've never been together ever. And it's funny because, so you got zoo people, you've got academics, you've got field herpers, and then you have private breeders. The four groups have never mingled. I mean, they do to an extent, but they've never been like let's hang out. It's not, you can never get the four groups together at anything. Field herpers and private breeders, yeah. Zoo guys and academics, yeah. You're seeing a lot more field herpers with academia now, like Jason and the guys down in Mexico at Herp MX. They're doing a lot of cool publications and a lot of new discoveries. So they're getting it written up and doing it how it should be done, which is really, really cool. It's funny because, I'm all four groups. So it's like they just don't intermingle much. It's really weird. Things like IHS is probably the best, I guess, symposium series that intermingles the four groups really well together. But other than that, everybody has their own meetings.
Yeah.
Well, what is it? The Herpeton
Herpeton, yeah. That's going to be similar to IHS. So there's going to be.
There we go. Let's put that plug in there.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of breeders, I think, from what I've seen so far, and some field herpers. I haven't seen a lot of academic stuff in there yet, but here's hoping.
Yeah. Do you know why it's in like San Diego, or when did you hear about it?
Because Philippe and Alan both live in San Diego, so that's and it's going to be in June, which is prime herping time.
We should give a little background.
yeah. So I also think I want to say there's a herp show around then too. The San Diego herp show might be around then. I don't know. That makes sense. But I mean, San Diego in June. Who wouldn't want to be here? Come on.
Right. Yeah. So, if you haven't heard, Herpeton, Legends Herpetocultural Conference.
We're doing bad at topics.
Don't care. Herpeton is an annual herpetoculture conference held in San Diego. This inaugural event is the week of June 6th through 9th, 2019 at the Courtyard Marriott, San Diego.
And you can hear Jeff speak.
Yes.
You didn't have enough of him speaking for 2 hours.
Right.
So do you have a subject for your talk there?
Yeah, they want me to cover field herping, so I'll do San Diego herping. Awesome. So lots and lots of photos of San Diego herping.
And you said that your son is speaking also?
Yeah, my son Matthias. Sorry, he's in high school now. He doesn't go by Matty anymore. Matthias Lemm. Yeah, he's actually speaking on. They asked him to do like a herping with legends thing because he kind of knows all the guys. And
he's 16 and got the herp with Mark O'Shea. No big.
Yeah, Mark, and he knows Philippe and Dante, and he knows a lot of big dudes. So he's herped with Frank Reedus and just a lot of different people in the field. So he's going to give kind of a little slideshow talk on herping with legends, and in the eyes of a kid.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
No, yeah, it's awesome.
Photographer too, so he'll have some pretty good shots.
Because it's, I mean, as far as people who like herps, even yourself, obviously, Philippe, and Mark O'Shea. I mean, those are people who I barely have the balls to talk to over podcast, let alone, herp with them. So.
Oh, that's funny though. Nah, all down to earth, cool people, and I've never really gotten that part, the whole herp celebrity weird thing. It's just people who like reptiles. That's what I tell people all the time. Like, oh, Steve Irwin must have been like the crazy. No, it's just a herper, man. It's just it's calm. No, it's like the guy that likes reptiles. That's all it is. He doesn't want people all up in his grill wanting autographs and all that. And that's how most of these guys are. They're just regular guys that want to go herping.
I think it's fun that there can be a person who's a complete celebrity walk on water in front of a very small select group of people and no one else cares at all.
That's totally how it is too.
I don't know
No,
if it's
Steve was different. Steve got a
his is
huge
different.
following.
I mean,
He
you're
was
on TV,
different.
you're a celebrity.
Yeah.
But I think it's one, it's envy.
Yeah.
Two, it's mixed with like you have experienced things and you know things that a majority of the world will not know. So that you're not just a regular guy who likes to do stuff. Like the experiences you've had make you're not a regular guy. Like,
I also don't want to like say anything stupid in front of Dave Barker or something. You know, he's like, well, that's not right.
No, Dave laughed. Dave's totally down to earth. He's really
that was
cool.
just a random example.
Okay. No, I mean, and most guys would just laugh. They'd just go, yeah, that's cool, man. No big deal. But maybe it's the mystery.
yes,
Mystery of it all.
I think it's different now a little bit because we can all kind of connect with people a lot more freely. So it used to be like it was a person that you knew
you
from
never
a book
get to talk to, or
Right.
they wrote some book and it's this book that everyone wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a lot easier to, go friend, somebody and you get accepted and you're like, oh my God, cool. I get that. I mean, I've done it. I was like, oh yeah, that's awesome. That dude friended me. That's cool. And I mean, once you talk to anybody, they're the same herp geek you and I are, It's just kind of how it goes.
Is there anyone that, I mean, I know that a lot of times people have mentors and stuff in academia and I guess in the zoological community, but I mean, who were some of the guys that you came up with and kind of served as your mentor?
There's been quite a few different ones, actually. When I lived in Bakersfield, there was a guy named Al Robbins, and he was really interesting. He was an old guy, an elderly gentleman, and he did the snake shows at all the schools. I remember I first saw Al Robbins, the Snake Man, when I was in 5th grade, and I was just like, this dude's a legend. And he was a magician, too. And he knew, but no, check it out. The guy knew Harry Houdini. He knew Houdini. That's how old he was. But he did the first venom ductectomies on snakes, which I thought was cool because the first time I met him, he like handed me a Mojave rattlesnake. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Yeah, I was in the 5th grade. And today we, shoot the guy for something like that.
Right.
But back then I was like, that's awesome. And he was just like a legend, mostly just in Bakersfield. But he grew on me pretty quick. In San Diego for herpetologist, it'd be Chris Jackson. He's kind of one of those legendary guys that doesn't like to be out front and know people, although kind of everybody here knows him and a lot of people in the US know him. But Chris taught me a lot of what I know about snake husbandry because, I go to his house when I was 16 and he has 800 snakes. And he's just letting me play with whatever I want and teaching me about them and how to breed them. And I mean, that guy was breeding snakes before most American guys. And he's total legend, still a really good friend of mine today. Zoo world, there's just too many to mention. I mean, so many different guys. And for what I do, it's a lot different than people who work in the reptile house. So I didn't have a big zoo mentor. I had research mentors, but for the zoo world, no, because I didn't ever work in the reptile house. I have my own reptile collection and I do research in them in the field. Academic wise, Harry Green is a really good friend and a big mentor, legendary writer. If you don't have any of Harry Green's books.
I just bought Tracks and Shadows and I haven't started it yet. So
fantastic book. I mean, one of my favorite books. And you'll go through it in like 2 days. I did. Harry's awesome.
I tried to read earlier. It was rough.
I need you to take 2 months so you can stop buying so many books.
She gets mad that I collect books now.
Oh, dude, I've been doing that for years.
Books. I got enough.
She doesn't understand why I have a book.
Yeah. Talk to my wife. She's like, what is this? Why this giant area of our house dedicated to her books? Why not? That's the answer.
Because there's a thing called the internet, and you can.
There's just something about a print book, though. You have it. You flip it, and what it is.
I can print it out for you. I can print out the pages off the internet and fold it into a book. Will that give you the feeling you desire.
See, like this one, this old field book in North American Snakes by Raymond Ditmars has these awesome illustrations. But it also has notes. It's someone wrote notes in like 1950 something all throughout this book.
That's
and
awesome.
I'm like, that's fucking cool.
I will print out pages in the margins for you.
Well, now there's Wikipedia. I could have figured out when Ditmars was alive on second thought.
You could probably find every single picture in this book.
No, what it is for me is, because I collect books, I have a bazillion herp books, and it's because I remember being a kid and going through the pages every single day and, reading Carl Kaufeld and just those memories. That's what it is. The internet's stupid. I don't like the internet. I like being able to hold a book and reading it. It's awesome. And that's why when I wrote another book on Cyclura, and when that came out, they're like, do you want to do it, sell it digitally as well, the publisher? I'm like, hell no. I want people to buy a hard copy book. And they're like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, but then they did it digitally as well. But I've never seen the digital. I don't own it. I don't want it. I want my hard copy Cyclura book.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm similar when it comes to herp things. Other things I don't mind. But so how is it? I mean, what's the process of writing a book? I mean, you obviously have come out with a few. They're not your traditional books per se, but more. But kind of what is it like?
It's a labor of love. You don't make money writing natural history books, that's for sure. You make some, but I mean that's not why you do it. For me, I like to write. I've always written. I've written a lot of stuff over the years, and I like to show my photos, and that's an easy way to do it and mix conservation in with it. The rock iguanas are one of the most endangered group of lizards in the world. They need the attention. There's a lot of people that keep them in captivity. So, I decided to write a book. Excuse me. I decided to write a book putting it all together, field stuff, conservation, and husbandry. And so I did. But, it's fun. It's easy for me. I mean, a lot of people struggled on their books, but for me, it's kind of easy. I always know what I want to write. And reading so many books, that's probably why. Looking at so many books, I know the format I like. So I was able to just bust it out, throw the pics in, and I always write it first, and then I go to a publisher. And so far, I'm 2 for 2 doing that, getting picked up. So, yeah, it's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's awesome, and we get to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
There you go.
But not digitally.
Not well, on the Cyclura book, it is digital against my good wishes. But
so, is there someone? It's gonna probably be a dumb question, but is there someone you haven't met with or connected with that's still alive that you would hope to one day, or you feel like you've met all the greats?
No, I mean there's a lot of people. I'm trying to think of who. A lot of the overseas guys. David Attenborough is probably one of the biggies because I've watched the guy for my entire life.
You don't know how much
3
this
times.
needs to be said.
It's been the last 3 times.
She didn't know who David Attenborough was.
Are you serious?
I have gotten shit for the past 3 weeks. That is so weird how it keeps coming up. Since he mentioned it, it has now come up. I don't even know. It came, but like in casual conversation.
It's like when you buy a red Toyota, all of a sudden there's red Toyotas all over
now.
Exactly.
Yeah, no.
But it's David Attenborough.
We were talking about on a couple podcasts a couple weeks ago. We were talking about like dream guests. We'd have one, and Joe said, David Attenborough. And I'm looking at him like, do I ask who that is? Because I have no idea.
That'd be very awkward.
And he got very mad at me and embarrassed that I'm his girlfriend and I don't know who that is. But I am not the only one.
Not Jane Goodall either. You don't know who she is either. So.
But I'm not the only one.
Killing
I'm not the only one. It's not like it's splattered at the beginning of the planet all
those
over.
Are two...
Is it splattered all over the Planet Earth videos? No.
But Jeff, if you can get David Attenborough's contact information, we want to get him on the podcast.
Yeah, guy's a legend. I mean, it'd be awesome. That would be awesome. And Jane too. I mean, the two of those people are just legendary in conservation. So yeah, that'd be pretty awesome. Herp wise, there's so many different legendary herp people. I've met a lot of them. You know, like, oh, geez, I don't know, like Whit Gibbons. I've never met. That'd be cool to meet Whit Gibbons.
I know who that is.
A herpetologist. He's in the Northeast. Started Park. He's done a ton of stuff research-wise with Eastern herps. Good guy. A lot of cool research. What else? I don't know. There's a lot of people. Lots of cool people to meet still.
I was wondering, kind of, on the subject of Cyclura, obviously they seem to have grown in popularity in the pet trade. I mean, after obviously the green iguana's gone and everything like that, but people are starting to like, these big puppy dog tame Cyclura per se. So what do you feel? Do you feel like that helps conservation, or what can we do as like the pet trade to help conservation?
I mean, I think it depends on the people. It helps with conservation if the people are into conservation. I mean, it helps more the pet trade if they're, herpetoculturists usually, or often, not usually, I shouldn't say that, maybe 50-50. Ooh, I want to breed these, make a ton of money. Or, ooh, that's really cool, we should help protect these. It's all about the person and, what they believe in. Conservation wise, I mean, we have plenty of people doing work in the Caribbean and elsewhere on iguanas, and that comes down to funding. It's all about funding. I mean, that's the toughest part of doing research and saving species, is it's expensive, and that's usually what it comes down to, is needing funds. But it's I'm on the fence with the whole them getting more and more popular, because a lot of people can't handle Cyclura and don't have the experience to deal with it. They're not all puppy dog tame. Some are, some aren't. Usually it's dependent on handling and how much they're habituated, but not always. I've worked with a lot of Cyclura, and I've been around some for over 20 years that are still psycho and want to eat my face off. And others, puppy dogs, absolute puppy dogs. But you never know what you're going to do, what you're going to get. And the problem is, if you get grabbed by a big Cyclura, it's a hospital trip usually. It's not going to be good. So, it's one of those on the fence sort of things. Like when you're at the herp show and the guy's walking around with the big croc monitor on his shoulder. It's like, one of these days that's going to end really poorly. And it's like, oh no, he's tame. There's no such thing as a tame monitor. Get a monitor to operating temperature and see if you can walk around a herp show with them, especially a croc monitor. It happens. I've been around tame animals. I've had tame animals, but usually monitors, when they're at correct operating temperatures, are not handleable docile animals. So yeah, it's kind of one of those safety things that kind of makes me nervous, because when something like that happens, it goes into the news, and then what happens? The laws come down and we get worked even worse than we already are.
What's sad is every herp show has that guy, and we're lucky that has not backfired on us.
Yeah, every single one. And it has. I saw a girl get grabbed by a boa not long ago at a herp show because of that. Dude holding him, not paying attention. Oh, he's dog tame. Whack. So
for us, it's always reticks. It's always nice to have a retic on you,
Ugh.
It's not hunting off top of your head or anything while they're
I had one on me at a show.
I don't know.
Ryan has a whole time.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, stationary at his table, not walking around he's selling retics. He's going to have.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, if you're at your booth, sure. But when you're walking around and, your croc monitor's face is right here and I'm standing there, I don't like that. And I tell the guy, hey, dude, move. I don't want that thing in my face. I don't know your animal. It doesn't know me. I'd rather not have its head 2 inches from my ear.
Yeah.
So,
truly, there's no reason to hold your animal or bring your animal to the show and hold it out.
That's the look at me thing that herpers do. That's all that is. 100%. Instagram hits. That's what that is.
Absolutely. I hope to be part of a hobby that respects and furthers conservation. Is there a way for the pet trade to do that sustainably?
I mean, there are groups that do it. I mean, it's again, it's just dependent on people. You know, there's some of the auctions at some of the shows they've had. The money goes straight into cyclura research. Thai Parks, Iguana Fest, all that money goes into iguana research. You'll hear about a certain group. Chicago Herp Society has put funding towards even my research and other people's research. There's groups that do it. It's just, it depends. It's kind of like all the shows have gone one direction with that funding that comes from auctions and everything, which sure, that's fine. But, that's not helping conservation at all or conserve the animals everybody loves. That's helping us be able to have them. I get it. I totally get it. But maybe one or two shows, maybe throw some money towards conservation. So.
Well, we've wisened up to that, at least for a few things. We know a few people who have been contributing elsewhere, and we'll have something like that similar, or soon rather. But yeah, I mean, but there's nothing like, I don't know, because we like to think that commonly, say if I have a commonly imported species like red blood python, or, we hope that the pet, and honestly, the pet trade now should probably be able to have enough red blood pythons that we don't need to import thousands and thousands. But or I mean, does it even matter because the skin trade is so heavy on red blood pythons that we don't even make a dent in it?
Yeah, we're nothing compared to the skin trade, from what I understand. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to see. You see it with monitors, tegus, a lot of animals are just taking a beating from the skin trade, and the pet trade portion is a small part of it. But then there's other species that take a pretty big hit from the pet trade. So, how much is enough? It seems like all that's here is ball pythons and leopard geckos and bearded dragons. Where are these things going? You don't see it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, you think of all the animals that are sold, all the random sunbeam snakes that I see go off of a table. I've never seen anyone with a successfully kept sunbeam snake or like vine snake or like any of that shit.
Yeah, it's not
where
like
are these things going?
See, that's what was cool about, the 80s and the 90s. You go to an expo and it was just everything. There was just so much different stuff. And you're like, dude, this guy's breeding, some random little weird lizard that you'll never see again. And, and he's got those babies on his table. Go check them out. It was cool. Now it's like, man, I don't even walk around the show anymore. There's just nothing I really want to see that much, and it's just, I guess that's me being real again, which I take a lot of hate for.
It seems to be everyone's. That's the weird thing is, I mean,
yeah, it's everybody's.
I feel like everyone has the same view on it. I feel like everyone's is like.
Well, because we're preaching to our own choir.
I was about to say, I didn't know if we're just agreeing with our friends, and they're our friends. Are they our friends because they agree with us, or do
we already filtered out the people that we wouldn't be friends with
and wouldn't agree with?
We just talk to the ones that we agree with.
Right. So I guess I mean when I say everyone, I don't mean everyone. I just mean everyone who agrees with us.
I mean, there's beautiful animals. People are producing some really cool stuff, but man, I don't want to go to a show and go table after table after table of the same stuff. I'm just not even going to look. And, I'll hear, so-and-so has some monitors, or, somebody's got some cool little geckos or something down there. Go check that out. And I just wait for the reports. I don't want to walk around and see all that stuff. It's gotten old. I've done this since the very first herp expos, and it's just not the same.
Especially after you've seen what you've seen, and the amount of stuff there's out there in this world, and then it's like you're not trying to see 10 ball pythons in a row.
But I mean, you've seen a big shift too, because like a lot of the guys that came up with me are just like not even into it at all anymore. I sold my last snakes like 10 years ago. I'm just field herping now. I'm sick of all that crap, and it's like it's that what we just discussed about the monoculture that we're seeing at shows and everything, but it's also the whole Facebook and crap talking. It's just everybody's sick of it. It's all you see and hear, and like on the ads, it's the same thing. Some guys, your animal's this or that, and it's just shitting out the mouth constantly. It's just like, stop it. I can't take anymore. So yeah, sometimes I just got to unplug and ignore it all and just go herping and fishing and hang out with non-herpers for a while.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we wouldn't be able to continue this without asking about Sanzinia.
Yeah, people keep on bringing up Sanzinia.
We have multiple friends who are like, I want Sanzinia. Where can I get it? Who, like, all that.
That's fun. Where were all these people when I was breeding the crap out of them and I couldn't sell them?
They just became hot like a year ago.
Well, that's how it goes. Everything's in cycles. It's like fashion. Every 10 to 20 years, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was breeding the hell out of Sanzinia in the early 2000s and I couldn't sell them. So, I mean, I gave Chris Jackson one and somebody else the other, and that was that. And then I got some more, and then I was bored and I moved them to get some more monitors. But easiest snake I ever bred. People overthink species way too much. I think that's why some people have trouble with certain species, is they overthink it. And I really, really think that besides monitors and some other things, people overheat their animals and, you know, either sterilize them, or if that's a problem, I don't know, or they just get them so hot they're stressed out. You know, Sanzinia don't like it hot. I kept my Sanzinia like king snakes, and they bred it 2 years, and I bred them constantly. It was totally easy. And all I had heard was, oh, they're so hard to breed, nobody can do it. And like, I bred them as soon as I got them, and it wasn't hard. And then when I got the second ones, they grew like weeds, and everybody's saying, oh, they grow so slow. I'm like, mine are growing fine. So basically, I had a 60-watt bulb in the cage, and that was it. 4-foot vision, water bowl. That was it. When she became gravid, I had a heating pad on low. She got big and black, swelled up, rolled on her side to bask, had a bunch of babies. And that was kind of how it went every time. You know, they would go off feed a little bit in the winter. I'd fast them for maybe 2 or 3 months, but if she was acting all psycho like she wanted to eat, I'd feed her. And she would eat almost all the way up until giving birth. The male would go off food a lot, which is normal for when they're cooling off. But yeah, I just tried feeding them if they didn't eat. Okay, we'll try next week. I kept them together year round, which you do with boas. I did spray them in the breeding season when it started getting cooler. They'd hook up, they'd breed, and she'd have babies. That was that. Easy.
Which phase? I mean, which of the 2 phases did
I
you
had
have?
greens. Yeah, I had green ones. Yeah. I loved them. They were fun. I had them for a long time. And I just, I couldn't sell them to save my life. I'd have them at shows, these beautiful red little babies. I'd have 20 of them out there. Nobody'd take them. I'd end up trading them for stuff. And it's a nightmare. The babies were not that hard to get eating. They weren't chondros, that's for sure. They were quite a bit easier. They would usually begin eating on their own little pinks. What I found was they liked bigger food, and I fed them live. So I'd put them on a little perch in a cup or in a lunch bag, a little brown lunch bag, and just throw a live hopper in there. And they usually start eating, you know, by the 3rd week or so. Pretty simple. Yeah.
Wow.
So do you know where people can buy them today? Do you
well,
know?
I mean, probably Bill Hughes.
Somebody just asked me that.
A hard time.
Well, it's time of year also is kind of a bad time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just know people that have pairs that are still trying. I haven't seen any babas available in a couple of years now.
But you kind of hinted on, I was wondering, obviously you kept those animals in cages. Obviously you've kept animals in giant, I'm sure, zoo setups, type enclosures, and on tubs, sterilized. I mean, when it comes to snakes, is there a difference? What are we doing? Should we keep them all in tubs? I mean, what are your thoughts on all that?
I don't care really, and the snakes don't seem to care either. Yeah, I mean, a big, beautiful display is cool, but I mean, it's not unhealthy. And it depends on the person, I mean, and what their husbandry is like. Yeah, you're going to get, if Joe Schmo doesn't care about his animals and doesn't clean and, you know, doesn't scrub his tubs and stuff, yeah, the animals are going to look like crap and get sick and have issues. But I'm anal about my cage. I always have been. I'm super anal. I can't even stand seeing poop in there. The glass I have to clean all the time. I've always been that way. That's how I am with my house too. And so, yeah, I mean, I haven't had any issues because of my OCD, I guess you can say. But, I mean, I don't mind slide racks and tubs. I still use them. No big deal. I mean, if they're too small, yeah, that's one thing. If you got a, 12-foot berm stuffed in some little 4-foot thing, that's awful. But, no, give them space. For snakes, I like them to be able to stretch all the way up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that seems totally reasonable.
Yeah.
And you mentioned cohabbing also, which
yeah, you hear people that like it,
people hate it, like it.
Yeah, but I mean, mine never had an issue ever. And most of the boas I bred, I always kept them together. I also had huge cages. I mean, I had some in 8-foot cages, and the Sanzinia weren't massive when I got them, and they had, like I said, 4-foot visions, and that was plenty of space. And when I knew she was definitely gravid and getting ready to give birth, I'd pull the male then. So he wouldn't be back with her for a few months after she gave birth. But yeah, I never had any issues at all with any of the boas, keeping them together year round or most of the year. Same with monitors. I try and keep my monitor pairs together unless they scrap or the female doesn't want to be bred anymore and the male keeps wanting to breed, then I'll separate them. Same with Cyclura.
Mm-hmm. What other kinds of snakes have you kept? I mean, people are asking all different kinds of species, but like python wise.
I really liked my jungles back in the day when not many people had them, like in the early 90s. I got Gary Sipperly's female 4. That thing was just a screamer, and I reserved some from Gary, and I got those and bred them at a couple of years of age, and they're fantastic animals. But yeah, and then I had New Guineas and Coastals and Brettles and Stimsons and Perthensis and all that stuff. I went through the phases just like everybody else. Get as much as you can, then dump it all and get a whole different group. And, Colubrids I did for years and years. I still have some Colubrids, and I mean, I've kept a lot of stuff. And then I like weird stuff. So like I said, Telescopus, the little funky African snakes and African house snakes and shovel nose snakes and just, I don't know, whatever kind of looks cool. Langahas from Madagascar.
I don't think I've ever even heard of that.
Little leaf nose snake.
Langahas?
Langaha madagascarensis. Yeah, really cool little Madagascan twig looking snakes. I really miss the venomous stuff though, working in Australia. I mean, inland taipans are some of the coolest, most mellow snakes ever. They're nothing like a coastal taipan. Coastals are psycho, but they can get really tame in captivity. But inlands are like king snakes. Really fun, cool snakes. I miss taking care of those. Death adders were a lot of fun. And then when I left Steve's place, I went down to Melbourne Zoo, and I got a job in their reptile house. So got to play with urutus and all kinds of cool stuff. So I miss a lot of the venomous stuff that we can't play with here. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I feel like a lot of those Australian herpers are pretty free-flowing with their hands with the venomous reptiles.
You have to be.
Do you prescribe?
Well, that's what's funny is everybody thought Steve was a psycho, and it's like, no, man, he's like, that's what all Aussie herpers do because you have to. There's not an Eastern brown will never stay on a hook ever. I mean, imagine a coach whip that's like one of the most toxic snakes on earth, that as soon as you tail it, it's coming for your face, and that's just what you have to do. And, that was part of the game when I became a Aussie herp keeper. I had to learn tailing is the key to doing this. You had a hook on the front of the body a lot, but a lot of times they just bypass it completely. You just had to know the free-flowing hands was a skill you had to learn because you just can't do anything. And, we did snake calls too. So part of my job at Australia Zoo was doing the snake calls on the Sunshine Coast. And, God, 9 out of 10 times it was an Eastern brown. And you get up there and you're like, damn it, I got to grab that thing and he's going to come at my face and go ballistic. And if he grabs me, I'm screwed. And you just learn really quick how to do it and how to bag them as quick as you can without handling them too much. So that's why those guys are good, man. Those Aussies are some fantastic snake handlers. And I've been herping with all those guys, and it came to the point like we were racing to see who got to catch it first because it's a lot of fun. Probably not the safest message I'm giving, but
Yeah, dangerous
it was a
fun,
lot
but-
of fun. Yeah, big King Brown crosses the road, and there's 4 of us throwing elbows trying to get to it first and get our hands on it. So, yeah, I miss those days, but I'm older and slower now, so I'm not going to be doing a lot of that these days.
Is there any place that you have left to herp?
Oh, there's so many places left. There's so much of Mexico I'd like to do. It's a little too sketchy in some of the places, but there's other places on mainland that I want to do. Again, I've been there and done quite a bit. But yeah, there's tons of places in Mexico, Durango, more in Oaxaca, a lot of places. More South America. I'd like to do some Brazil stuff. More Indonesia, China, Japan. I haven't done a lot in Asia. Yeah, I'll never get to all of it. So try and get to as much as I can.
Yeah, I guess there's always something else.
New place.
Always more herping. Even in the US, there's still places. I've been to a lot of the big herp places you hear about or read about in the US, but there's still others that I'd like to go mess around with.
So have you been to, West Texas? Have you found Alterna in the wild? All that lore?
I've done Texas, but I didn't get an Alterna. I've only done it once. My son won when he was 12, he won the first junior herpetology award for IHS. And that meeting was in San Antonio. And I said, if you do this and you go speak in front of all these herp people, and you do a good job, we'll go herp West Texas. So he went up and he killed it. He did a fantastic talk on Switex geckos. And so we went and we did the whole west route. And we timed it just in time for really cold rain and a lot of it. And a tornado touched down and destroyed part of the hotel we were at. It was a nightmare.
Oh, wow.
We saw a lot of stuff, but we didn't get the Alterna. So we will be going back. It's got to be done.
Yeah, that's another one of those places. If you've never been in West Texas, it's so vast.
Different world.
It is. It's massive.
Different world.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, I had a great time herping there, but yeah, it was kind of different.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, different.
Now on the animal front, now that we asked, do you have any herp places left? Do you have any animals left that you have not kept that you want to have the opportunity to keep?
Kept?
Yeah.
No, I'm not thinking the keeping route much these days. Like I said, I'm getting more and more away from it, just because I want to field herp more. But if you asked me if there's any animals I want to see in the field still, yes. King cobra. I'm going to India soon. I'm catching a king cobra. But or Mangshane vipers or something cool like that. I've seen a lot of cool stuff, but there's always more. But no, keeping wise, no, there's nothing I really am aching to go get and keep right now.
Now, is your son, since he's so into all of this, does he have his own kind of collection, or is it just kind of?
Yeah, he does. He's bred leopard geckos since he was like 6 years old, and then he got into knobtail geckos. He's got some Mexican black king snakes, but he's like me. He's mini me. I'll admit it right now. He's junior me.
Seems like it.
And he likes field herping. That's his thing. And he likes surfing, and now he's a crazy fisherman. And I started that, but now he wants to go he's waiting for me right now to go fishing at this hour. He's like, come on, we got to go get the bullhead catfish. It's going off right now. Let's go. He's waiting.
He has school tomorrow?
So, yeah, he does. But he's in high school now. He's allowed to stay up later. So, yeah, it's, he keeps stuff, but he'd rather field herp.
I respect that.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. seeing them out in the wild, I mean, change your perspective a little bit of them in captivity at all?
Yeah, it does. Monitors especially. Monitors, when you just see how active and how much territory they cruise through and stuff. Yeah, it kind of makes you think, I don't know that I want to keep these in these cages anymore. Snakes, not so much. I see the same snakes in this. I've had a gopher snake under the same sheet of tin for about 2.5 months now. So you'll see me post him every week. Here's my boy again. The same red diamonds in the same spots every week. So snakes, not as much, but certain species of snakes, like coach whips and stuff. Yeah, unless you have like a whole room, I don't want to be keeping those in some slide rack or something. But boas and things like that, I don't see an issue with it. But yeah, monitors, I just don't like seeing them in little cages.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, especially to look at. I mean, they just did a study, years ago on indigo snakes, and they cover a range of, I think, a square mile.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, shit,
cruise,
how do I
man.
keep them in a 3 foot, 4 foot cage?
You'd be amazed. A lot of snakes do that. Red diamond rattlesnakes, I radio tracked rosy boas. They would move. The males with the biggest home ranges were like 15 hectares. That's a lot of space. Even horned lizards, coast horned lizards, man, they would cruise 1/2 mile in a day. And it was part of their territory. They just have these massive home ranges. So yeah, we're not even close for any of the herps we keep on what they need, unless you have an knoll in a bedroom or something. We're not even close. But again, it doesn't seem to affect them poorly. It all depends on the person keeping them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we've gotten good at keeping things alive and reproducing them. I don't know.
For sure. Yeah,
anything past that, I think now that we got that down, but we could still look, I think, for places to improve upon.
Yeah, enrichment. Enrichment is something that nobody ever thought reptiles needed, but they can do quite a bit with it, especially monitors. Monitors and crocodilians are brilliant animals. You see them figuring out problems in their cages, and they know us. They can tell us apart from one another, and if you can give them enrichment, do it, because it would help them mentally. They probably get very, very bored in their enclosures.
And obviously everyone knows monitors are intelligent, but do you see benefits from enrichment with snakes too?
Sure. Yeah. There's snakes that are target trained. It seems like the more intelligent snakes, just from looking at them, are the, diurnal snakes, large eyes, fast moving, mambas, things like that, cobras. But yeah, there's people target training snakes and training them to do things. And yeah, they're smarter than we give them credit for. And they're much more social than we ever thought they were as well.
Well,
big research area right now is sociality in snakes. It's
definitely.
really cool.
So is there, just off the top of your head, is there anything that pertains to the community and kind of the snakes that we commonly keep?
Pertaining, like how do you mean?
Socially, as far as, obviously we keep all of our snakes in solidarity.
Oh, right.
Are there any snakes, say, like if they found ball pythons hide in dens with 10 of them together, would that change things? I don't know.
They definitely come across multiple animals in a season. That's pheromones are everything. They scent trail to each other. Some species seem to like bigger groups and some don't. But then again, we don't know that much about wild snakes yet because there's species we just can't radio track yet. The technology isn't there. So, it'll be exciting in the next, 10, 20 years when the technology is good enough that we can radio telemeter snakes like we can, condors with GPS packs and cameras on them, so we can see what they're doing all the time. When that happens for snakes, we're gonna learn some stuff. It's gonna be awesome. And hopefully I'm, not an 80-year-old man with a walker out in the field trying to catch snakes before that comes. But I don't know, I'm getting tired.
You're still doing a lot. So
yeah, it's all in your head. Age is in your head.
Age is just a number.
That's right.
Another number is the time on the clock.
Oh,
And we
Whoa,
we blew through that,
transition.
didn't we?
We have reached our 2 hours, and it is 11 p.m. I'm tired.
Yeah, we usually
you
do this
guys are
2
more
hours.
tired.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll be as tired as you after I go fishing tonight.
Yeah, like we're gonna go to sleep after this.
All right.
You're gonna go fishing for however long.
Yeah, but it's only what 8 o'clock
It's 8
there.
o'clock. Yeah.
Yeah,
8 o'clock.
it's easier. And I sat through 7 hours of parent-teacher conferences today. I'm
Ooh.
tired.
Jeez, yeah, that's brutal. I don't know how you do that.
Well,
Different world.
I'll
Other
take
little.
Crocs and Cobras any day of the week.
But if someone wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way they could
Probably
get?
Facebook. Yeah, I mean that's how most people get a hold of me on the private messenger thing. So,
and do you have animals for sale or plan to have animals for sale? or care to-
I have 2 monitors left, 2 Primordius males, and you'll see them on my page right now and on Fauna Classifieds. That's all I got, and then I'm done with monitors for just taking a break. I can't. This will be the first time in about 30 years I haven't had a monitor. But it'll be a nice break, so because I have a lot of traveling to do. Get a hold of me on Cuba, people. Trip in June. There's like 5 spots left. They go fast, all inclusive except for your airfare. Once you get there, it's all covered. You don't do anything. I even cover the tips while we're there. So cruise out, see some awesome stuff. Nothing like a giant camellia sitting on your arm.
That sounds awesome.
Everyone said they'd go with you.
Let's
Who's
go.
Evan coming with me?
Everyone, I said.
Oh, everyone.
Mike
There's only 6 slots, people.
Mike, Will, all these people.
All right, so
Yeah.
we're gonna have From the Ground Up Fest in Cuba. So we're gonna one up
Good
the Carpet
job.
Fest guys.
And go
Do
to
it.
Cuba. There you go.
Let's go.
We're gonna have Cuba Fest.
Probably have to wait till next year. Long time.
Nice. Cool.
If anyone wants to reach out to us, obviously you can catch us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Port City Pythons. Our website is portcitypythons.com. Our email is theportcitypythons.com. Wait, no.
The
You
Port
sure?
City Pythons at
gmail.com. Sorry. What's up?
I was too cheap to buy the email.
The domain.
Yeah.
Okay, Gmail's great.
They could get me on Instagram too, Jeff_Lemm, Lemm.
I don't even think I'm following you, so I will now. And obviously, I mean,
Ouch.
do you and your son have a Instagram? Because
My son's on there too, Matthias_Lemm photography, I think is his. Just Matthias Lemm. He has a lot of cool photos. Mine's mostly herp photos, some fishing stuff, but wildlife. So
Awesome.
yeah, check it out.
Sweet. Anything else?
We'll be here next week. Wait, guys, the curse.
Whoa.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. It worked. I
Whenever
probably
we
shouldn't have
announce
said
a
it.
guest beforehand,
There's
they
always
don't.
something that goes wrong, whether like
Uh-oh.
they either like don't come or like the feed cuts out during the thing, like so many different whatever issues. And I'm a total believer in it. Joe's not so much. So like Joe posted pictures on our Instagram saying that we were gonna have you on tonight. And I was mad at him because I was like, it's the curse. Curse has worked every single other time we've said it to someone who's coming on, something happens. Like every other time. So
And we're not talking like
I
one
broke
or
the curse.
there's a
Did I
few,
break
It's
yeah.
been-
the curse?
it's been
Is that what
like
you're saying?
10 times, but I think you broke the curse.
Nice.
I'm probably seeing it again now by saying it. I shouldn't have said anything. Just
We're good. It's over now, right?
That's it, guys. We can breathe easy now. Thank God.
Nice.
Now I can actually promote our shows.
And my puppy didn't even wake up. Like he's still asleep.
That's a
Puppy's
good
not
dog.
home. Kids didn't come in. All perfect.
Good show. Well, thank you again, Jeff, for being on. It was great to have you and pick your brain and everything.
Certainly. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Of course. And we will catch you guys next week with someone that I won't tell, but I can because the curse doesn't exist. We
But
will
you're just
catch
gonna
you later.
choose not to.